Hi Pranav, hi everyone. Thank you for joining on this podcast interview for the Going Up podcast. So I would like to start with an introduction about yourself and foundership. Um,
Hi, Steph. How are you doing? And thanks for having me. I think what we're building at going up is a super need for the industry moving forward. And as there is more adoption in Web3, you'll see decentralized ID becoming a very big anchor point as people's identities evolve from a Web2 to a Web3 environment. And having said that, my name is Pranav. I lead the venture arm at Foundership. We are an accelerator VC. Our program is remote and virtual. Going Up is one of our 40 startups we've incubated. We're very proud of the founders we've backed and the founders we continue to find. And overall, I think my focus has always been on Bitcoin. I've been in the space since 2017. Uh, I'm a Bitcoin miner as well. Uh, very bullish on things like decentralized ID, real world assets, and sort of utility use cases based Web3 implementation. So I think it's going to be interesting, and I look forward to our chat today.
Thank you, Pranav. And what are your thoughts on the applications and the need of decentralized identity across different sectors? For example, in the workplace, in the future of work. Now that also many people work remotely, and also where many people are temporary workers or temporary contractors.
So I think I'll take a step back before I go into use cases of Web3 into sort of adoption, right? So today we believe that there's about 5 billion plus people that have access to the internet. And applications or companies like Meta, which is Facebook, or Google, typically have 1 to 2 billion monthly active users, unique. And on the other hand, decentralized apps like any of the Web3 apps you come across based on the blockchain are probably having a few 100,000 users on a monthly active basis. And there's probably 5 to 10 million monthly active users in the whole space. So as this goes a 1000x, as this market grows 1000x, we will see that the entire world will move towards a decentralized or a blockchain enabled environment. And I feel that one of the problems with a Web 2 identity was that it was not verifiable, and it required that you basically trust the person who's talking to you or who's interacting with you. And there was no way to create a record that was permissionless and yet verifiable. So these are the two factors where I think decentralized ID makes a lot of sense. So why do I say this? A, because it's trustless in the sense that if I share my, say, ENS with you, right? Finallrounder.eth is my ENS, and I share that with you. You can literally look up that uh, quote unquote wallet on Ethereum, and it'll tell you everything I've done on the blockchain in the years that I've had that wallet. Similarly, if I look at that and apply it to a workplace like environment, we now talk about we've all made a CV at some point of time in our lives, or we've seen a CV at some point of time in our lives. And ultimately, the biggest problem is how do you verify what's on the CV? Is that credible or is that not? As a person who's making a CV, I often have a problem where I don't know everything I've done, right? Because you can't really record everything you do at work. It's really tough to, even if you've tried to fill your annual performance report or review. I worked for a large corporate with 70,000 employees. So I knew how difficult it was to remember as a manager what your team did individually when you had to assess them every quarter or every year. And I think both those ends of the problem can get tackled with something like decentralized ID and what we're building at Going Up, because there I have a proof of work documented on the blockchain, right? And as a Bitcoiner, I definitely believe in proof of work. So I think we're going to have a very interesting opportunity here with Going Up where we can apply a token of appreciation and record it on a blockchain with a timestamp, with a signature, or a Web2 authorization, and have that available for a foreseeable future or for the long term on the blockchain. I think it's super. And those are sort of my top of the mind use cases. And I'm sure we'll talk about more as we go forward.
Very interesting, Pranav. So you mentioned performance reviews, and that's also something that we are looking into, and into turning performance reviews also as an asset for people, for professionals, to prove also that they are capable and they have the experience. So what do you think are the what is needed for a mainstream adoption from companies to trust storing their performance reviews on chain, for example?
So it's I think, I used to be a director and the CFO of a multi-million dollar corporation, and therefore I think I have a unique perspective which maybe a lot of our Web3 ethos don't agree with. It is not about, I don't want my performance review to be public as an organization, because I don't want to infringe on my employees' privacy. If you understand how performance reviews work, it is a one to one, maybe restricting it, but it's a specific individual or a specific person's performance being discussed. Whether the inputs are from multiple people or one person doesn't matter, but it's somebody's performance record. Like just like my mark sheets from school or college, I don't want in the public domain. I don't want my monthly, annual, quarterly performance records on the public domain, right? So there is definitely a merit to recording a public, creating a public record of your performance, but there needs to then be a way for me to permission who can access it and who can read it. At the same time, what can you read, right? Because if I worked for 14 years for a large corporate, I definitely had some bad quarters and I definitely had great quarters as well, right? And if I give you access to my whole track record, then you get to see the bad along with the good. So you never know, right? And therefore I'm sort of divided on performance appraisals. My second problem with performance appraisals going online or public is that they're subjective. A very few criteria or very little criteria of the performance record is objective. Like, did Pranav achieve his sales target? And I can say I achieved 10%, or I achieved 100%, or I achieved 200% of my sales target. That's objective. But is Pranav a great salesperson, or am I a great sales leader or manager? And that depends on who's writing that comment. And therefore, it's subjective. What maybe the reason for that may not be purely objective, right, in their assessment. So we've seen bad bosses, we've seen bad leadership affect people's careers, and it will be unfair to take all of that and put it on public record.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. I think performance reviews should be something that could go on chain, but encrypted in a way that the user could decide if they want to showcase certain performance reviews for a future employer. But that wouldn't be something that will go 100% publicly, but that would be kind of like an elective showcase for a very specific entity verifying that information.
Exactly. And like, if you, I don't know if you have kids, Steph, but like we have a 8-year old. If you come into her room and you'll see every child has some trophies or some medals or some certificates that they've put up on their study desk or their bookshelf, and you just showcase those, right? You don't write the 101 times that person didn't do well or didn't win a prize, right? Like obviously every child took part in 100 things and won in five of them. So you'll showcase those five trophies, but you'll not list down the 95 times the child didn't win. So that's exactly what I feel as an organization I want for my employees as well, because the relationship is symbiotic, right? I want my employees to take the wins from my uh, employment and their career and showcase those, because that makes us a winner as well, right? If you won while as an employee of my team, then my team won as well, or my organization won as well. So I completely align with the fact that we move to a permissioned uh, sneak peek, if that's the best word, of our career highlights, rather than like a full stock performance appraisal periodically going on chain.
Yeah, definitely. It can be beneficial also for companies to showcase that also they have the right internal culture that supports their employees, supports training and so on. But yeah, um, and also like I recently had another chat with another portfolio company from Foundership with Turf ID. So, what are your thoughts on how to foster more collaboration between different decentralized IDs? Because there are different use cases for IDs and communities, but how can we make sure that these are interoperable and people have one single identity that at some point they can plug it together with all their different identities?
I personally feel that people are multifaceted. So if you see me in a Bitcoin conference, my identity in that day is probably a Bitcoiner. If you see me on a Web3 conference, my identity that day is probably crypto investor. If you see me in a parent teacher meet at school, my identity is parent of a child. So if I'm cheering for my favorite cricket team, which is India, then I'm an Indian fan. So my personality has many facets, and therefore many aspects to my identity, which is a very core personal uh, concept, right? And therefore, I believe that just like somebody could have 5 social media profiles, 3 email IDs, different, LinkedIn for professional, Facebook for friends and family, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat for people I don't know, Tinder for people I want to meet, and similarly, a work email, a, a investment email, personal important stuff email, a personal junk email which I can put on like 101 shopping sites from Target to Walmart. So just like I have so many aspects to my identity, even when we come to Web3, we don't need to have a single wallet, a single chain, a single identity. I could use going up for my professional career based academic record, while I use maybe Lens protocol for my degen NFT community, and I use like a foundership ID. I don't know if you ever have a foundership ID, but I use my foundership ID for my investor Web3 communities, which are gated, and where I know that hey, a large company or a large organization or community like foundership has said this person's an investor, this person's a founder, so Steph can use the foundership issued founder ID and get into groups that are gated for founders only. So stuff like that, right? So I think it's a multi use case, multi identity, multi product situation, not something where one size fits all.
I agree, but do you think there should be some sort of cooperation between these different IDs to?
Oh, 100%, 100%, right? So it's the same person. The best part is that it's the same person, right? And if there is an intent, but the only difference is I feel that I should be allowed to link my two identities, and they shouldn't get linked at the back end
Mm,
from a privacy standpoint, right? I don't want my boss to know I'm a NFT degen who'll buy like meme coins at 1,000 of a cent and hope for it to go up while I'm a CFO in a corporation, right? So it's two different identities, it's two different purposes. Or you don't want your gambling platinum membership to be seen by your corporation, right? So because people like it, right? Like people can like betting, people can like gambling, people can like shitcoin memes, meme tokens. So it's for each his own, and they should be able to disclose those interoperable. But for sure, we will go to a point where all these IDs will talk to each other and interact with each other. And if you look at Quest platforms like Galaxy or others, they're already collecting a lot of information that users end up linking about their identity, both Web 2 and Web 3.
Yeah, definitely. I think it should be an elective process of people deciding how they want to interconnect all those different identities and all those different aspects of their online persona. And also talking about verifiable credentials and zero knowledge proof. What are your thoughts on zero knowledge proof and verifications, and what are the things that you are excited about in with this specific technology?
Oh, ZK is the fundamental tenet of blockchain, right? You cannot really have a blockchain based proof without having ZK, because my favorite example is, if Steph, you go to a bar in the city or in the US, they will ID you, right? They'll ask for your ID at the gate. And the gentleman or the person who's standing at the gate, if you give them, most of us will give our driving license, right? Like that's what I always did in the US. I would always, almost always end up giving my driving license. And that used to give that person my name, address, age, date of birth, sex, height, weight, blood group, right? It gives you so much information. Whereas what that person needs to know is a binary yes or no answer on, are you 21 years or not? That's all they need to know, right? And therefore, in my world, that is a ZK proof, right? That is a IRL, in real life ZK proof right there. He just needs to know whether Pranav is 21 or not, Steph is 21 or not. If yes, welcome in. If not, go out, bounce them. And inversely, we end up showing them all of this, like literally our whole identity through a driving license, which is not really required for that purpose. And therefore, I think blockchains are built for ZK. Any good product built on the blockchain should absolutely leverage the ZK proof, zero knowledge. And, it's just like token gating, right? Like if it's a NFT club, as long as you have the token, all they know is yes or no, right? They don't care what's your token number, which ape you have, what you do. It just sends that verifier a yes or no answer on whether this person meets the criteria or not.
Yeah, definitely. It's easier to verify information and to like select which people will be able to verify that information without broadcasting everything and making everything publicly, which is give a lot of flexibility for people. And in terms of Web3 and mainstream adoption, what are you think? What do you think is missing right now to push things uh, forward?
We are at a proof of concept level. We are in the 1990s of the internet. Things still don't work. Somebody texted me this morning that ETH to Arbitrum swap for ETH to Arbitrum chain is costing $210 in gas. So if you think about uh, adoption for the billions or the millions, hundreds of millions of people, things need to be easy and intuitive. Like the test is, you take an iPhone and give it to a 3-year old. In 3 days, they will figure out how to use it. You take a MetaMask and give it to a 30-year old, they can't take 30 days to figure out how to use it, because it is not intuitive, right? We're still very early in our journey of crypto adoption. And I believe a lot of us like to say we'll get to a billion people in the next few years. But I think even 100 million users in the next 5 years would be an achievement for us, would be a great win for the whole space, because it'll take the market from where we are today and 10 or 20x the market. And that's a great growth rate.
And what do you think it could be like a good approach for founders for startups in the Web3 space to onboard these people who are not necessarily familiar with Web3, but could be open to this technology. For example, people who could be curious about decentralized identity and could see the benefit of storing their professional credentials on chain, but they don't necessarily know about that this exists, that this is available.
Exactly, right? And therefore, we have to make it as simple as downloading LinkedIn and setting up a LinkedIn account, or going to linkedin.com and setting up a LinkedIn account, and be able to do sort of performance marketing slash um, show up in trade fairs, show up in job fairs, go where the people are showcasing their professional journeys, and tell them, hey, here's a way to do it. It's as simple as using LinkedIn. And the fact that there's a blockchain or a NFT or a token or something being created at the back end doesn't matter. Like how all of us took, uh, I don't know, what do we call that on LinkedIn? Is it references or is it like endorsements? I forgot what the word.
Endorsements.
Endorsements, right? Like, so everybody went to their bosses, colleagues, and said, hey, endorse me for fundraising, endorse me for investment banking, endorse me for leadership. And those could be a very easy way for someone like going up to go and get mass adoption, as everybody will tell five other people, hey, this is a new product I'm using. Can you click on this link and endorse me for my skill set? And when Steph goes and clicks there, it asks you after the endorsement, hey, would you like to create your own profile and ask for endorsements from your colleagues and family and friends? And therefore it just starts to sort of snowball, right? And it should be as simple as LinkedIn. That's the hack for now. Before we end up disrupting it, we need to make it as easy as LinkedIn is.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Is helping people also to increase their trustworthiness online, something that they can easily prove, they can easily showcase to their colleagues and friends. Yeah, definitely. I like that approach of endorsing people online.
Exactly. And it's a low touch, right? Like, one is that I go and I try to ask my boss for proof of uh, work or certificate, and they have no mechanism like that in the company. But if I go and ask my boss, hey boss, you always tell me I'm a great communicator, why don't you endorse me for that on going up? And he's like, sure, send me a link, I'll do it. And they just get like 10 words and one skill, right? One skill, 10, not more than 10 words, another skill, not more than 10 words, and they build that endorsement list. Say yes, do a web 2 auth or a web 3 auth for them, and boom, we're done. And we
Yeah,
create that record on chain on the back end.
yeah, I really like that idea. Um, and that could also be colleagues also endorsing, bosses endorsing, and so on. And
Yeah, customers, like, customers, vendors. Say,
yeah,
I used to sell steel for a living, and a lot of my customers will be like, Pranav, it's amazing. It's really good to talk to you. You know so much about the market. And I have no way today to show you that my customers said that, right? If I had this product 7 years, 8 years back when I was doing that, I could have had a record of doing that. I've had government ministers tell me that, Pranav, you're doing a great work for your company, but I have no way to show that, right? So if I had those options as I grew up in my career, as I went up in my career, I could have actually used going up to get endorsed on those skill sets and create a proof of record over those 14 years while I worked in a corporate company.
yeah, definitely. And how do you think it could benefit also contractors? Because contractors, they move from company to company, consult, same for consultants, and they always need to prove their skills, they to their customers, as you mentioned, and doing background checks sometimes they can take several days or weeks. So yeah, what are your thoughts on this?
Absolutely. And I think the freelance economy is the gig economy is going to be super important, right? And the best example I have is Uber drivers and passengers rating each other, right? Like you have a Uber rating every time you take a ride, and every time you take a ride, the driver also rates the passenger. And that I think is the secret sauce of what we need to crack with going up, right? That every time a freelancer does a gig or every time somebody submits something, is it being rated by both sides of the value chain? And therefore, can we create that reinforcing loop, right? And then suddenly you have, hey, Pranav's applied for a designing assignment at going up, and here is his going up LinkedIn going up profile, which shows 500 jobs completed with an average rating of 4.8 out of 5. And instantly Steph is like, I want this person to do my work, right? You don't really wait for 10 other people to apply, then try to compare. You like, he's done 500 jobs, he's got a rating of 4.8 on those 500 jobs. It's on a profile like going up, which is a decentralized blockchain based. I can click on any of those 500 and see the comment from the person, and boom, right? And that's done. And and that I think is super powerful as we go to a gig economy based world where people don't have 40-year careers, right? Like I could not imagine having a 40-year career doing the same thing in the same office. So I'm sure people who are 20 years younger to me don't even want to do it for 10 years.
Definitely. And yeah, and things like interpersonal skills, leadership, trustworthiness can really be highlighted, and people can use it for their advantage in their career. Um, and, and do you have any exciting news that you would like to share about foundership, or any updates? Uh,
Uh, yeah, so we're actually helping a lot of our companies to announce their tokens and go to market this year. And we are also beginning to figure out ways to fund our startups through our syndicate. So I think it's going to be really exciting for foundership and the startups in our portfolio, like going up in this year, where we try and take most of them to a token listing and therefore enable them to actually work on their products and their problem statements and solve the things they want to solve, because money is not a reason, right? We've all been through a very long winter in 2022 and 2023, and therefore it's become more important to use this next 12 months to get some resources that will allow our founders to build and solve for the problems that they're trying to address. So that's us at Foundership. That's what we're doing. That's what we're focusing on this year.
that's really awesome. Yeah, really exciting news, and looking forward to that. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much for the interview, Pranav. What is the best way to get in touch with you if anyone listening would like to get in touch with you?
So I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm fairly active on Twitter. Uh, you can feel free to drop in my LinkedIn or Twitter links, and that is sort of on LinkedIn. I'm just Pranav Agarwal. On Twitter, my handle is Fin Allrounder, which is like finance all rounder with the fin on it instead of finance. So that's sort of my Telegram, Twitter ID, and otherwise, once you reach out, I typically move conversations to Telegram for friends and colleagues who I want to stay in touch with. So I think that's the best inbound in terms of social media, X and LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thank you so much for